Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of The Monster's Den. It's Thursday night. Welcome back, everybody. We've got a pretty cool episode here tonight. We're going to talk about this series right here, the Rec series, okay? 4 films, Spanish little franchise of infection, zombie-type films, whatever. And before we get started, we're going to introduce everybody here. We've got Craig Kaminski, Mr. Scrapple himself. We got Dan Brown. We've got the king himself, Chris Laszlo. And it looks like Jamie Laszlo has entered.
Guys, are you there?
And he'll be leaving soon.
Guys, I can't see a damn thing. Somebody turned out the big light. I can't see a damn thing. And I don't think I'm alone.
God
damn.
He's a regular Houdini, I swear to God. Dyslexic
I'm okay.
Houdini.
We're gonna have to go to the Monster's Den bench now. So
Yeah, I'm not good enough to be on the show now. I gotta go, guys.
Jamie, you got to fix that big light now that we finally figured out what that light is called, right? Or at least in the UK, that's what it's called. Did you guys ever hear that before?
What?
This came up on the Curse of the Collector show. One of Davy's main light in his living room went out, and he couldn't figure out what it was called. So we were all trying to fit this ceiling fan light, whatever. And apparently in Scotland and the UK, your main light in the living room is called the big light.
the big light.
Right.
I never heard that before, right?
I did not know there was okay.
The big light in the middle of the
big room.
It's
The big light in the big room. Exactly. That's
the
like
big light in the big
All
room.
right.
I don't think I ever really even gave it a name.
Peter, you're international here. You see how much we learn on this show? It's not about expounding our knowledge. It's about learning things like the big light.
I got to take myself out of the U.S. bubble that I've been operating in
big
for
salad.
years. Yeah.
The big race.
Yeah.
All right, so back to Rec. So Rec, for those of you who have never seen this little franchise, Rec stands for, you got the little record button like on a camcorder or a video camera, stands for record, Rec for short, because when you look at the buttons, it says REC. So that's what this is all about. So there's 4 films. This franchise started as a Spanish series. First film was in 2007. The sequel came out in 2009. Third film came out in 2012, and fourth film and the last film till now came out in 2014. The interesting thing about this series is that it became pretty famous for being like one of those found footage like films, especially the first film. And to many people, it's fairly groundbreaking in the way they did it. But what's even cooler is this whole franchise, basically all the events that take place in 4 films are really happening simultaneously or like one after the other. So you have the first film and the events take place, and then when it ends, film number 2 picks up like immediately after that, and then it ends. Film number 3 actually takes place simultaneously with the events of the first film, but in a different location. And then the 4th film takes place right after the events of the second film. Are you confused yet? I hope not. Anyway, it's a really fun franchise. I've heard of these films forever. I only just watched them for the first time like a month ago.
Seriously?
Really? Seriously, I never saw any of them.
Wow.
The only thing I ever saw was the American remake of the first film.
Quarantine.
Same here.
Contagion,
Right, which I guess we should mention. Right.
Quarantine.
The first
Quarantine.
Rec movie was remade, and it was a big theatrical release in America, right, called Quarantine.
right,
Yeah.
which did pretty well, but I think
They
it was
did
not.
it kind of shot for shot, pretty much.
Yeah.
They stayed pretty much in line with it.
Yeah, there's a Quarantine 2
Oh, yeah.
called
Craig told me
Quarantine
about
2 Terminal that
I'd
takes
never heard of
place
that.
on an airplane, but that has nothing to do with the Rec series. And actually, that's a better movie than Quarantine 1.
Wow, okay, because I
Yeah,
did
I'll have
not
to
like
check
the Quarantine movie that
Yeah,
much.
no.
So we're actually not including the U.S. stuff in this. These
No.
are only the 4 Spanish films.
Wipe
And
that away.
I would highly recommend this. I'm sure you'll figure out once we get done with our ranking here that these are pretty enjoyable. And I was very impressed by these films and how much fun they were. And again, they're not really your typical zombie film. It's more about kind of like an infection, right? And people just going berserk after that. They kind of act like fast zombies. I mean, we've seen plenty of fast zombie films before, but I think and whether or not you like the found footage thing might kind of mar your enjoyment of the first two films at least a little bit. I'll say it right now, I'm not a big fan of shaky cam found footage stuff. I didn't mind it here as much because I think that the acting and the tenseness of these films was really well done. And they're really well done films, right?
Also, they didn't overdo it. I mean, this is not Blair Witch where you're like, okay, Jesus Christ, stop shaking the fucking camera. You're absolutely right, Pete. They are the first two, which really are the two found footage movies, are very well done. And at points, you kind of forget that you're watching found footage. Every so often they'll shake the camera, but
yeah.
And then also the thing about number 1 and 2, it's the first one is the perspective of the news anchor woman and her cameraman. Yeah. The second one is the point of view from the SWAT team, and it's various cameras as well, and things going out. So it's kind of like same story, different cast.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're getting into them before we get in.
Well, we're trying to kind of preface, I get it. There's so much to talk about with these films. So
it's a convoluted setup.
Yeah, it is. But it all makes sense when you watch all 4 of them in a row. It makes perfect sense the way they kind of laid them all out. Mm-hmm. I think. All right. So what we'll do is let's start with we'll work our way back from our 4th favorite to our first. I have a feeling our rankings might be kind of similar. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe not. So we'll see. So Jamie, let's have you start us off with your number 4, and we'll go from there.
All right. And as I told you guys before we started taping, a big boo to my wife Grace, who wouldn't help me out with my little intro. I wanted her to come on and say I dragged him away because he's been doing too many of these videos and he's grounded from doing videos, and she wouldn't do it because she wouldn't put her face on camera. But I almost got my sister to pose as my wife, but then everyone would go, his wife is white? That's not what I heard.
Either that or they go, he's banging his sister?
Yeah, or he's banging his sister.
There's a lot worse things we could think.
You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know it was her.
What a passion pit that Sea of Tranquility Fest was, huh?
All right. Oh shit, my whole things are fucked up.
Oh Jesus.
In order. There's not in order. Yeah, okay. That's what I was going for in the intro. Number 4 is Record 3. Genesis. First of all, I don't think any hero is allowed to have a chainsaw after Evil Dead. I think that should be retired, like they retire a jersey in sports, put it in the rafters. No more chainsaws for heroes, whether they're male or female. Maybe that's just me, but I mean, the first thing I think we all thought when we saw the chainsaw was like, oh, Evil Dead. It's called Genesis. I was expecting like a Genesis, like an origin to the virus, but it's more like a just they're using it as a biblical term more and less than because there is no origin in this movie. It takes place in a church though, and there is a priest and a wedding and everything. It starts off with the found footage for about 20 minutes. And I, like Pete, I didn't see these movies until the last week and a half. I knew they existed, but I never saw them. So I watched them in order, and this was the second one. And when the found footage is starting, I'm like, ugh, I wish they would just go into traditional storytelling. And then when it went into the traditional storytelling and normal camera work, I was like, I wish it went back to found footage because it's kind of not working for me for some reason. Just felt wrong. It has less surprises than the first two because, I mean, when the uncle is puking, we know he's not drunk. Oh, he's drunk. We're smart enough. No, he's infected. When people have their back turned, we know they're infected. So a lot less surprising elements to it. The guy's dressing up as the armor from the church. Maybe in the writer's room, it seemed like a great idea, but when you actually see it on camera, it looks ridiculous. The zombies or demons or infected people, whatever you want to call them, when they stop walking because the priest is reading the Bible over the PA system, again, maybe a good idea on paper, but when I'm looking at it, it looks a little ridiculous. It overreaches, I think, with its premise, because at times you see the infected people, you know, they don't look normal, but they look like people. But then their images and mirrors are now. It's almost like the writers are making up this myth as they go along. What if they're demons in the reflections? Great idea. Throw it in. And like I said, the chainsaw was, but I mean, it's not awful. It's just coming in my last place. It had some elements. It's more gory than the other ones. I give it that. So it's not terrible. If you're going to watch them all, I wouldn't say skip it, but it's my least favorite.
Okay, Chris?
All right. My least favorite is Rec 4 Apocalypse. For those that don't know, this is the one that's on a boat. And I just was kind of bored at this point. There's this whole subplot where the news reporter Angela, who was the star of the first movie, and then she is in the second one for a little bit, and not in the third one at all. She is all over the fourth movie, and it's this whole big plot where it's like, oh, is she possessed by a demon? Is she not possessed by a demon? There's some kind of fucking monkey, and catch the monkey and catch this other zombie because that's got the fucking demon stuff in. Like, I didn't care. The zombies, I think, are stupid in this because they just run around and scream, and they just make these stupid fucking noises. They're not frightening or scary at all. And I was just, by this one, I was just bored. You know, I remember, and unlike Pete and Jamie, I saw these movies as they came out. You know, these were huge on the, you know, underground tape trading circuit way back when. I mean, I think I got the first one, I got it in straight Spanish on VHS. But you don't need, there's such simple plots, it doesn't matter, if you can read the subtitles or not. But yeah, I just find the fourth one a chore to get through. And then the ending, I'm just like, oh, what the fuck? This is just stupid. You know,
Wow.
there's the two main leads, they look identical. I couldn't tell who was who. When one got killed, I was like, oh, wait. Oh, the other guy's still alive. There's like a fat guy who's like, his character trait is he takes the entire movie to eat one chocolate bar. I'm like, what? I'm like, I'm a fat guy, and if I've been trying to eat a Hershey, that thing's gonna last like 30 fucking seconds. Like,
I
literally,
thought he had a few.
this guy, it's the same one. He's taking a fucking nibble at a time. I'm like, this is just. So yeah. So of this whole franchise, I think 4 is the only shitter, and that's my pick.
Oh, me.
Right.
Oh, my. Me and Laszlo are going to
Wow.
so disagree
Okay.
on this.
I may have to step off camera for a minute because I'm still laughing my ass about the guy nibbling on a chocolate bar.
I mean, dude, come on.
Fucking great. No, it's great. That's
A 3-ounce fucking Hershey bar, and it takes this fat guy 90 minutes to eat the whole
no,
thing.
it's true. No,
He didn't want to indulge in front of the chick he liked.
no.
I guess. I don't know.
But then again, let's face it. Isn't that Guillermo del Toro's younger brother?
It could be. It certainly looked like him.
He looks just like him, and he's
Yeah.
obsessed and the whole thing. And yeah. But that's yeah. But God, yeah, nibbling took him a while. Yeah, you're right. No.
Whole fucking movie. He's walking around with this thing in a Hershey bar.
15 seconds.
Dan, how about your number 4, Dan?
Me, number 4. It's so funny. I sat here and I thought about everything, and I came on the show, and honestly, after Chris's great review of number 4 was not going to be my least favorite one. But since Chris came on, it is my least favorite because I'm realizing he hit it. I try to convince myself I enjoyed this film. And look, it's an action film. It's aliens without Bill Paxton. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Run crazy, all kinds of crazy shit. Yes, it is the weakest storyline, but the weird history with this film, or the whole series, is they made the first 2 films, which were wildly successful. Okay. And they apparently had to get back together, the producer and the writer, to say, well, should we make 2 more? There was some kind of weird thing going on here. And they eventually agreed to make 2 more films. And then they took both 3 and 4 into a totally different direction. They have no interest in doing any sequels or anything after this. So it kind of got like by Apocalypse, like, okay, they're trying to wrap this shit up, like when they cancel a TV series, and all of a sudden they haven't finished it. So let's like wrap it up. And that's what they did with this whole, the whole REC thing. But I like the running around. I like the Guillermo del Toro, lost love brother, whatever it is. I enjoy it, but it's not a very strong film, and it is the weakest one in the series. Thank you, Chris, for changing
Anytime,
my
Dean,
mind.
anytime.
If you all put that as your least favorite, I'm going to change my list because I'll be.
Greg, how about you?
I quite liked all four of these movies, and I saw the first three some years ago when they were on Netflix, but I just saw the fourth one fairly recently. So my number 4 is Rec 4 Apocalypse, and I will say I do like the movie, but this is just my least favorite. I like that the original star, Manuela Velasco, returned. I thought she was a total piece of ass, and I was glad to see her, running around in like a half shirt, during this movie. As Chris had mentioned, takes place on a ship, and as Pete had mentioned, this is a direct sequel to Rec 2. So I like that it kind of ditches the found footage motif totally, and I like that. I did kind of like the fat guy, that he was like a fan of the of Angela, that he was like a fanboy of her, that he was really excited to meet her and everything. And I like the monkey attacks, that was like real, pretty quick in that, and that it was some of the gross stuff, like working on the food, the infected food, like serving that to everybody. That was like, oh God, that you were waiting for something bad to happen. And there's nothing wrong with using an outboard motor, boat motor, as a weapon. So I mean,
Which we'd seen before in Dr. Butcher, MD.
but I liked it. I did like seeing that. Yeah, twist with the Guzman character actually being infected, not Angela, and that. But again, like Chris said, the two male lead characters really do look similar. They could have, put a stash on the one guy, or I don't know, some way to differentiate them. But one thing I didn't like, it was almost like they had to make a villain out of somebody, and it's like, well, you know what, it's going to be the Doctor in this one. He's kind of like made to be the bad guy, because the ship captain really isn't. But still, I thought this was a pretty entertaining movie, and again, this is the first time I watched this a few weeks ago, and but yeah, I think it was a lot of fun, but just my least favorite of the 4.
Yeah, just add one thing. When I was going on a tirade about number 4, I mean, overall, I'll be with Craig. Chris opened my eyes about number 4 and the ranking of things, but overall, I do love the series. I really do enjoy it, and there are more positive aspects about it. There are some weak links, but I just want to know I do enjoy it, how it came out. If you look at it in the whole picture and how they pulled it off, it's pretty innovative.
Yeah.
When the films were made, and you're talking about 48 hours being made over 8 years of making a film. So these guys are pretty shrewd. So just want to let you know, I do enjoy it overall, even though Apocalypse number 4 is my least favorite.
Yeah, and I'll echo all of that. I had a really hard time with my number 3 and 4 because I enjoy all of these 4 a lot. I was surprised at how much I enjoyed all of them. And but ultimately, you got to pick one, right? So I think the one that I enjoyed the least amount is Rec 4. But I enjoyed this. I think what kills a little bit of the momentum in this film is like they spend way too much time in the first half of the film, people just walking around the ship, and there's not a lot happening. But then like the whole second act is a lot of fun, and it like Dan said, it becomes an action film. So yeah, it's my least favorite, but it's by no means a bad movie. I enjoy this. So, but someone's got to take number 4. So that's my pick. So back to Jamie.
All right, I am going with number 2 as my number 3. It takes place right after the first one, so it goes right into the action with no build up. And I like a little build up in my movie. I like how as Dan said, the SWAT team, or the GEO, whatever it's called in Spain. I like how they have the helmet cams, and the main cam can go into each helmet camera. Then you got the dumb kids coming in with their camera. It's like, does everybody come into this building filming something? It seems a little ridiculous. The problem I have here, it's a weird problem I have with it, but they touch on the supernatural in the first one, with the girl who's possessed. But I'm watching it, the first one, and I'm thinking, was she really possessed, or were these people like not into science and they kind of just fell on religion to come up with why this was happening? Maybe she really wasn't possessed, but she just had this virus. But no, the supernatural is thrown right in your face in here, and it's a bit jarring to me. The more it goes towards The Exorcist, the more it started to lose me. So and then they're climbing walls and they're changing their voices. And I'm like, I'm thinking, as the movie's going along, I'm starting to accept it more. Mainly because I'm watching this and I'm like, I got 2 movies to go after this. I better fucking accept it, right? So I just better swallow the supernatural pill, get it over with. All right, they're fucking demons. And there's like a main demon, and they're spawning through these demons and whatever. I do like, the cute reporter. What's her name, Craig?
Her real name, Manuela Velasco.
Yeah.
Angela Vidal is her character.
Yeah, she was cute in the first one, and by here she's like fucking hot. Like, the angrier she gets, the hotter she gets. The greasier her hair gets, and the more sweaty she gets, the hotter she gets. When she first shows up in this one, I'm like, oh, come on, because of the ending of the first one. But then they explain why she shows up, and I'm now accepting the supernatural a little bit more. And when they explained it, I'm like, okay, cool, I'm down with it. I'm ready for the next 2. So yeah, it's coming in at 2 though. That is my second to bottom.
Okay, Chris.
All right, for my number 3, I'm going with the original Wreck from 2007. Unlike you guys, I only like 3 of these 4 movies in this franchise. I think number 3 is probably the scariest of the entire franchise. I think it's really well done. I think it's fairly realistic in that, if some kind of quarantine needed to happen, the government would not give a fuck about anybody in that building. I think they would probably just fucking set the building on fire and kill everybody inside rather than let that shit escape. But it does kind of take a while, to completely disagree with Jamie. Yeah, I don't like a lot of buildup. Let's get right to the fucking action. So it takes a while to go, and I like 2 of the others better. But I think it is still a really well done movie, and I enjoyed it. But that's my I would put Wreck as the 3rd favorite of my ranking.
Cool. Dan?
I'd have to go with Rec 2. And why I was Rec 2, and I'm probably going to, my opinion is going to be based on my feelings on it when I first saw it. And I had happened to see all these films from the first film that came out right through Apocalypse, which actually in this country was direct to video. It really, and was streaming. It never came out on any type of physical media. But anyhow, Rec 2, at that time when I saw it, I just thought, as I said earlier in the show, it's like same cast, different show, or same show, different cast. I kind of short sold it with the whole thing at first, with the POV, with the SWAT team. And that they got into the religious aspect, they tried to build it up and so on and so on. But it just seemed to be like repeating the formula at that time. In the big picture overall, as you put the 4 of them together, it's a great concept over 8 years when they made these films. But number 2, it kind of got lost in the mix with me. And it, as Jamie was saying, repeating a lot of territory. You're going through the same thing, although the thing is, it's the viewpoint from the SWAT team as opposed to the TV crew. But that's why it's my least favorite, because it seems to be the same stuff in number 1 going into number 2.
Cool. Craig?
Yeah, I've got Rec 2 as my number 3 also. first movie starts at the bottom of the building and you work your way up. This movie starts at the top and you work your way down. So I did the one of the parts I didn't care for was the whole like fumbling of the blood thing. It's like, you have one job, is like hold on to this fucking blood vial. It's like, and then you drop it and it's like, ah shit, now we got to go find the the infected source. Now where how are we going to do that? But the found footage, I like the found footage way that it happened in the first movie, because it's her job. I mean, it's that they're there to do a piece on the firefighting team that came there. The second one, it doesn't, they kind of work it in with the the Vatican guy. He's filming it, but then with those kids, it's fucking annoying. And I was glad to see them dispatched. Eventually, because it was like, they're going through the sewers, and it's like, why are you even filming this? I mean, it's like it kind of reminded me of like Cloverfield, where it's like, where if like the shit really starts to hit the fan, you are not going to keep filming and saying, oh, look at that, Statue of Liberty head coming for me. But at least with these, it's where, at least the way in the first movie, it's her job. But
it sounds like you like 4 better. Are you sure you don't like 4 better?
I do. Yeah, I did. No, I did. Again, I do enjoy. I did enjoy. Rec 2. I mean, I like the ending. I like showing how how Angela got infected from part 1. And everything. I don't mind the supernatural aspect with it. I liked how she impersonated voices, and everything. Didn't mind that part at all. But I did enjoy this. But just the part with the kids was kind of rubbed me the wrong way and everything. But still enjoyable. And again, watching them in order. I really had no problem with this one. But I have Rec 2 as my number 3.
All right, so here's what gets painful for me. So I kept shifting my order around on this, after I got done watching all 4 of them. And I was like, man, just got to settle on something. So at one point, this was my number 1. And the more I thought about it, I'm like, oh, I have a hard time putting it at number 1, but I may talk about it like it's my number 1. Rec 3 Genesis from 2012. You know why I really like this one? This I think, is the only film in the whole series that is a blast to watch. It's a lot of fun.
100%.
I really had to stop myself from putting this at number 1. There's no shaky cam stuff in here, which is a plus for me. The storyline is kind of set aside from, like we mentioned, what's happening here is happening simultaneously with what's going on in that building in whatever city or place that's supposed to be. I think the characters are fun. The gore is tremendous. There's great action. There's plenty of humor, and maybe that's what makes this kind of the outlier in the series, right? It's kind of it doesn't feel like it really belongs, but I don't mind that. I think the main actress is awesome in this. I love how she goes all nihilistic on the zombies at the end. I don't mind the chainsaw. I mean, everybody uses chainsaw at some point. I don't really mind it. I think the chainsaw scene is really, really well done, and it literally is just a fun film, I think. So it's my number 3. It could rank higher. I'm still trying to convince myself that I shouldn't put it at number 1, but I'll have it at number 3 today. I really enjoy it.
Chainsaws are used a lot, but how often does the hero use it, though? Not as often. That's all I'm saying.
True. Yep, true. It's fun, though. Fun film. Anyway, back to Jamie.
All right, my next one. We're flying through these.
Yeah.
Dan, you got a hot date tonight? I've never seen your take so short. You got to get out of here or something?
Dan, you're doing a hell of a job. Don't listen to Dan.
Dan, I want more. Talk more about these movies.
I smoked me a big doobie and I had some wine. Guess what? Let's just keep moving.
There we go. Good man.
Let's just keep
this fucking train rolling.
I'm going with the first one. I always called these record.
Bourbon, I get angry.
Yeah, you guys are calling it rec. I called them record. I like the first one. I liked it a lot. I just wish I saw it in 2007, because the whole found footage thing now in 2023 feels dated.
Yeah.
It just you don't see it as much. People got burned out on it. I got burned out on it. And even though it's been a long time since I've seen a found footage movie, when I'm watching it, you still feel that little bit of burned outness. But it's still really good. I love the tension between the characters. You know, I think found footage movies require a different kind of acting, because the acting has to be like more natural. But if you try too hard to act natural, it becomes unnatural. But these guys do a good job. And I assume there's a lot of ad-libbing. Like the director would just tell you the premise, and then you kind of just ad-lib your way through it a little bit. So it is a little bit different, I bet, in in acting. But I like for example, the old married couple, when they're arguing, like in their late 70s, I believe these two have been married for like 60 years. And it's the little things like that you know, make everything else more believable. The little girl turning into the demon child, I thought that was cool, because at first I didn't see it coming. Maybe I'm blind, but I didn't see it coming. I was like, oh, they went there, cool. And I like the fact that it didn't go into where the virus came from too much. Like I said, I thought maybe she wasn't possessed in the, you know, the newspaper articles or whatever that was hanging up. So it doesn't go into the demon thing as much. The less I know sometimes about something, the more fun it can be. The last few minutes in the dark is great tension. Reminded me a little bit of the ending of Silence of the Lambs. But I wish I didn't see Quarantine years and years ago before I saw this, because the ending then became a little, you know, oh yeah, this is almost shot for shot, you know, the last few seconds. So yeah, and like you guys are saying, I'm pretty sure there's a moment in this movie that the dude would put down the camera and say, fuck this. We don't need to tape it that bad, you know. But it's not a fancy movie. It's just done well, and it's a fun ride. I like the slow build up, you know, make me believe in the characters, even if it's a little bit of a slow build up, because then I will buy anything you throw at me later. So there you go.
Cool. Chris.
All right, my number 2 is Rec 2 from 2009. I like it because it jumps right into the action. It's the classic sequel trope of, okay, what do we do? We're gonna build on the first one, but we're bringing in the military. So it's, you know, Aliens, Hills Have Eyes 2, Descent 2. We've seen it a million times, but it works. You know, I like that the shaky cam footage isn't so bad. I like guns and bullets and explosions, so I like that these guys go in and they're blowing the shit out of lots of these zombies. I think it's similar to the first one, but yet different enough, because now we've got, these guys are now on a mission. They're on a mission to, you know, recapture the blood and, you know, try and turn this thing around, unlike the first one. So no offense, Jamie, but I'm like, wait, you're like, this is the same as the first one. I'm like, but wait, dude, your favorite fucking horror sequel is Evil Dead 2, which is a remake of Evil Dead 1, except for the last 10 minutes.
You're putting the words into my mouth. I never said it's too much like the first one, did I?
Yeah, you did. So
I'll roll back the tape. I can't wait to watch
That's
this.
all right,
over.
that's fine.
I can't wait.
I don't like
It's
Evil
too
Dead
much
2
like
either.
the first
I hate
one.
Evil Dead 2. It sucks.
Evil
I
Dead
like
2,
how
it's the same thing, but
I like how it really
Oh, I never said
introduces
that.
and plays up the religion part, because again, that makes it different from the first one and every other zombie movie. And
yeah, hurry the fuck up so we can watch his tape, because I want to see if I said that.
that's funny shit coming from Jamie, who's been chewing up scenery tonight. So yeah,
Wow.
let me get my wife to fucking
love
hook up a
Jamie.
chain and pull me in the chair, or no, or not. But yeah, I like the fucking religion aspect, because it's really different. I never seen that in a fucking zombie movie before, and we all seen a million zombie movies. I like how the slug monster at the end is kind of like Shivers and explains why she's possessed or not possessed. And so I think this was different enough. It was similar enough to the first one, but yet different enough that I really liked it, and it had a lot of action and guns, and I like that. And that's my number 2.
Alrighty then.
Okay.
Jamie's like, damn it, I've got to go watch and see.
Oh,
if
I can't wait. Yeah, I can't wait.
Wow.
I normally go to bed right afterwards. I'm staying up tonight.
Nice, dude. That's what you said.
Drink.
You're like,
heavily and watch movies.
it's the same as the first one, but it's not.
Am I next?
But yet, Evil Dead 2 is the same
I'm
thing as
losing my
Evil Dead
fucking
1.
mind, so maybe I did say it.
It's similar. It's similar. No, it's got its moments. Anyway, Dan, number two.
Two things I learned tonight. One is that Chris Allo can convince me to change my least favorite film just by listening to his tirade. Now, this recent thing with Jamie, the other thing I've learned is don't get on his bad side. So, that being said, my least, I kind of fall in this thing with you, Peter, you said before. You start talking about Evil Dead, God, REC1 or REC3. And you're kind of like you, I'm flip-flopping. Because I love, and I'll say my second, I'll give it the second, but in my heart, it's number one. REC3 Genesis is my favorite film in the whole series. And why is it? It goes off the rails. It just goes off. And when people say the chainsaw thing, I was not thinking of Leatherface. I was thinking of this really bad, low-budget film. I know Chris has probably seen it, heard it, knows of it. He may even own a 35mm print of it. Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers.
Oh, sure. They charge an arm and a leg.
Of course. So, and that's what I
Take way to heaven.
And then, in an ironic sense of the word, the interesting thing about it was that we had catered a wedding. This is not my promoting my business, but about my restaurant. We catered a wedding, and the bride in the wedding was a dead ringer for this woman in the film. And so it was kind of weird. It's I was like, all right, Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers, and it's also this very attractive woman we catered a wedding for. And it's like, wow, this is exciting. But aside from that, why I like it, it's all, not only is it part of the series, and as I will reiterate, I love the whole series. There are flaws, there are good points and high points and low points, but I love the whole REC series as a whole, the way they crafted it. But this one here, it not only the things as Peter said earlier, they take place early in the film, because in REC1, we hear about somebody brought a dog to the veterinarian's office.
Right.
And they were waiting to bring the pet back. Then also when we get to REC3, we find out that the uncle who had his hand bit was a vet at that office. So these events not only start in REC1, where it starts with her with the fireman crew, it starts actually the day before when it all started. It works through REC, works its way right through to the whole night when Angela's in REC1 and 2 with the SWAT team and her thing. The thing is, that's the whole wedding shit going on too, with the guy who had the bootleg SpongeBob SquarePants suit to whatever. That's happening at the same time sequentially. And I found that's why I enjoyed it, because it's off the rails. It just kind of fits into the whole picture. It kind of like encompasses the whole film series, but also it's entertaining as fuck, because there's this hot chick with a fucking chainsaw. And there's this crazy gore. And there's now the interesting about the POV footage and what goes forward. As you watch Genesis 3, REC3 at Genesis, as you're watching it, okay, when the film opens, it is the point of view from the wedding videographer, and I believe a member of the wedding family with his little Sony camcorder. That's the POV. At one point in the middle of the film, when the groom wants to get back with his wife and find her, he goes into the kitchen, and his vision is through the eye of the videographer. And the groom says, shut that fucking camera off. He knocks it to the ground, the camera breaks, and from that moment forward, it's no more POV. It is straight the other, and I find that a moment of genius. It's something you just pick up on. And that's just me being nerdy and whatever it is, and weed and wine.
That's what makes the movie different from the other.
It makes it different, and that's why I like, because it's so off the wall, and they had a sense of humor. It's all about fun. Come on, it's fun. Which they kind of covered over into the number 4 with the guy being obsessed with Angela, the fat guy in the IT thing. But it's kind of wild how they kind of crafted this out. And that's why. But even though I picked it as number 2, it really probably is my favorite one.
I was gonna say it sounds pretty
Yeah,
close.
it
there.
sounded,
The only
sound pretty
reason
convincing.
I said the same thing before.
I'm not
It's
giving
like,
away.
yeah.
I'm not giving any recipes. But the thing is yes, number 1 is my favorite. And the only reason I give number 1 my favorite, and I'll tell you, is because the how it was made. It was good POV, just from the whole craftsmanship, not from the story. It set a stage, and it took those POV Blair Witch projects where it was going on, and great visual, great color, great whatever. It's not the shaky cam. It was more like professional cam. And that's why I like number 1. But no, overall, number 3. I love that fucking film. I've watched that film so many times just because I get a kick out of it every time I watch it.
Cool.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to take anybody's thunder. And I know we're making good time, and I think it was time to ramble at some point. Thank you.
Not anymore.
What do you got, Craig, for number 2?
My number 2 is Rec 1, and really enjoyable. I like how you think it's going to go one way, and then it doesn't. Like Chris had mentioned before, that you got a little bit of originality to it. At the time at least, where you think it's a movie like Outbreak, where where people are sick, and with something, but then it's like, yeah, they are sick, but then they're also possessed of some sort too. So I liked how they did a little bit different with that. And as mentioned before, I like the infected mom and the kid. Gets found out because of the dog. The little girl has tonsillitis. Well, no, she doesn't. She's got something a lot worse. Once the bodies hit the floor, from the ceiling, or from like the top floor, from the stairwell, it really doesn't let up. It's a good. It just keeps going and everything. Really good use of night vision. I thought with this, kind of like in The Descent, a smart way to use it, and it reminds you a little bit of the end of Silence of the Lambs too. And great ending with Jamie being dragged off, someone getting dragged off like that. But I did like the ending with that. And one thing I will say, this was back when I first watched these were probably, it may have been the first movies that I watched that were completely in a foreign language, subtitled. And there's probably a lot of people out there who are just like me, that are kind of averse to watching any movie that you have to read everything. I know whenever I mention to my mom, it's like, oh, I watched this movie and it's subtitled. I can't watch that because then I'm focused on the words and I'm not focused on the action. I think this is a really starting just with the first one, a really good movie for people to give a try to watching a completely subtitled movie, that it will engage you, and that you'll enjoy it. Besides of what's going on, it's that. And if you can get through this one, you can continue the rest of the Rec series, or watch any number of great movies in non-English with the English subtitles, and not be afraid of it. So,
I was just gonna say, Pete, do any of them have English tracks at all, or no?
I'm pretty sure my copies are dubbed.
Oh, really?
There's two collections out there.
I'm trying to remember.
There's one collection that's dubbed in English,
Huh.
and then there's another collection that has the subtitles.
I mean, all 4 of the movies are streaming on Tubi, and they're all in Spanish with the English
Yeah,
subtitles.
those are all subtitled. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but again, for people who maybe kind of on the fence, gee, I don't want to watch a completely subtitled movie. Start with the first one, and you'll be okay. But,
it's the gateway to subtitles. They're like the Opeth.
It honestly was for me. I don't recall watching a movie that was completely subtitled prior to seeing the first Rec movie some years back on Netflix. But again, my number 2 is Rec 1.
I have the Scream Factory box set, which has all 4 of them, and I'm trying to remember. One of the first 2 I had to watch in Spanish with subtitles.
Well, they always,
one was dubbed. Did have the dub.
They were at one point, but most of them have been Spanish with English subs. The funny thing is, the whole REC series has never really gotten much expansion outside of the Spanish market. Number 1 was a hit here, kind of. 2, 3 came. Number 4 never made it to theaters in the U.S.
Right.
Number 4 ended up going with, what was the name of the company? Wellborn, or one of those. Magnet Video distributed it. and they put it onto streaming or cable services or streaming. That was it. To this day, like Apocalypse #4 has never been available in the US as a single standalone disc in the #1 or A format. The only way to
Too
get
bad
it
since
is
it's
by
the
the
best one out of the 4.
from Screen Factory.
Yeah.
Because I had it on Region 2. And I also had caught it on cable. But so it's very limited. But the series is so popular in Spain that they actually created a graphic comic novel for it. Sometime after REC3. And it had like 5 stories, kind of like tying up loose ends. And they actually go into a story about what happened to the dog that was brought to the vets the day before the whole Angela incident. It's kind of weird. It's like a cult thing in Spain, but even in the US, it's never been, that comic has never been reprinted in the US, and it's never been translated. And if you go on things like ABE Books or Olbers Books, it's like $300. You can't find it in the US. Kind of strange. It's a weird cult thing that's never been distributed. So just thought I'd add that in before I
yeah.
get my
I do remember though the one of these that did have English dub. It was a horrible dub, like really bad. But
dubbing never captures the emotion of the actors.
No, it doesn't. And
it's like they're reading like when I was growing up in the '60s. When you watch shit that was dubbed, it was always the people that did like Rocky and Bullwinkle cartoons.
Yeah, like ridiculous.
It was always like these standard like voiceover actors. Everybody sounded like Rocket J. Squirrel or Boris Badenoff. Yeah.
All right, my number 2 is Rec 2, 2009. Again, it's continuing right after the first film. Again, I like the fact that they change up the point of view thing. You know, you got the SWAT team there. I think this one has a little bit more action than the first, but there's reasons why the first, well, spoiler alert, my first is my number 1. It seems like they had a higher budget for this film. You can kind of tell the gore is cranked up a bit. All I'll say is that the scene with the flare in the mouth is classic. I had to rewatch that over and over and over again. I was laughing. I'm like, holy cow, that is awesome. And there are quite a few scenes like that throughout this series, which I think is pretty cool. But yeah, really, really good. I like it a lot. It's my number 2. Back to Jamie.
Clearly the best one is Rec 4. Clearly. I don't know what's the matter with you guys.
Rethinking a strategy.
Christ. Look. Here's the thing. I've said this before on this channel. It's got the alien blueprint, and I am a sucker for the alien blueprint. Give me that isolation on a ship, whether it's a boat or a spaceship, and I'm down. Give me the characters. Give me the guy with the candy bar, the nibbling on it. Give it to me all, and I'm down. They get rid of the found footage, but they still keep, the record aspect because they're trying to get into the chick's, download the chick's stuff from her camera, or they're trying to get into security cameras. So they still keep that aspect within the movie. And I thought that was kind of creative to do that. I think it starts off right where part 3 should have started off. You guys like part 3 because it's different. It doesn't feel like it belongs, if you ask me. Yeah, it's different, and I think that's its downfall. Part 3 to me, especially after the cliffhanger on part 2, you watch a TV show like fucking, I don't know, like Lost. Remember the TV show Lost? And you have that big cliffhanger at the end of the episode, like, I don't know, Sawyer's in a cage again or something, or and you can't wait till next week, and then next week comes and it's all about Hurley and what he did before he got on the island, and you're like, son of a bitch, I want to know what happened to Sawyer, and then you got to wait an extra week. That's how I felt about part 3. I had the cliffhanger, and then I'm at a fucking wedding. This has nothing to do with anything. Cut it out. They do work in the wedding with this one. It's almost unnecessary, but they do it anyways, just to tie it in. I thought it was a nice, she thinks that this elderly woman's out of it, and she keeps thinking she's at the wedding and she's actually on a ship. Yeah, I thought it was all right. Well done. But things to me feel natural in this movie. Some of the aspects of part 2 and part 3 made me think they were making things up as they go along. I do remember saying that. And but here it sounds like it was all planned. Like she was a TV personality in part 1. That comes into play way into part 4, so she could get the ally with the candy bar nibbling guy. And in the way the host, who's the host, where's the larva going into, works with part 2. So it feels complete to me. I love the RAS motor as a weapon. I've never seen the movie that Chris brought up where they do that, but I thought it was well done and really cool looking in this one. I love the twists at the end. Who's the demon? Who's got the thing in the mouth? I'm glad that it doesn't focus too much on that they're actually demons, because the more they do that, the more it starts to lose me just a little bit. I thought there was tension, especially in the second half. I was on the edge of my seat, and I didn't know who was going to live and who was going to die, because you don't know in these kind of movies. And I was rooting for the chick, and I was rooting for the fat dude to escape with her. And I hope they banged like a mother effer on that raft after they escaped.
No, they didn't.
Oh man, come on!
He was too busy finishing up that candy
She wouldn't
bar.
touch that guy to scratch him. She's like, get the fuck out of here.
Oh
Yeah.
man,
It was like Jack fell off that door in the ocean.
But and I love at the end how the demon larva, where it ended up into the fish's mouth, because now it's giving you right at the last second a little sense of humor. And here's my idea for Rec 5. The fish has the demon, a shark eats the fish with the demon. Now you have a demon shark. How do you incorporate the recording into it? It's Shark Week. The crew from Shark Week goes out to look for a shark. They're filming the whole time. Now you have underwater found footage with the demon shark. There you go. Rec 5. There's your premise.
Jamie,
Rec 5,
we live in the
Recnado.
world of Sharknado, of 5
Yeah,
Sharknado movies.
Straight to sci-fi.
Anything is
Straight to
possible,
sci-fi.
my friend. Anything is possible.
Or it could be a Girls Gone Wild guy is like filming it, and then they all come up in fresh water, and then a penis flies by. Oh wait, that was done in Piranha. That was done in that Piranha 3D movie. Forget it. Yeah.
What,
You never
what a
know.
great, what a time to be alive.
Never say never, right? Oh, boy.
Okay, now Chris, put my least favorite as your number 1.
Well, you've got my least favorite as your number 1, so we're like the two Twixes.
Love the sexual tension.
I'm the
here.
fat one.
I love it.
It was a fat Twix.
There's a Cookie Crunch.
Dan and Pete did a great job of selling it, even though it wasn't their number 1s. Yeah, my favorite by far of this entire series, Rec 3 Genesis. I love that they dropped the shaky cam shit almost 100% completely.
Yep.
I love how it's just natural storytelling. I absolutely love how it's the fucking Bridezilla that's pissed off because it was her day that got fucking ruined. So she's got the chainsaw and she's mowing down zombies. Yeah, so sorry that it's, infringing on Ash, but I'm like, hey, to me, the first real hero that had a chainsaw was Leatherface. So,
Anti-hero, yeah.
Anyway,
They were trespassing.
they were fucking
misunderstood,
trespassing. Fuck
Jamie.
those
He
kids.
misunderstood.
They broke into his house. I also love the groom, man, with the fucking suit of armor. That was genius. I just got mad when he fucking took it off. Like why would you take the suit of armor off? You can't get fucking bit like that. I love too, of all 4 movies, to me, this one is the biggest scope. They're running around the property, all these different buildings and in and out of buildings and the church and the wedding hall. And to me, it's the biggest scope. All the other movies are claustrophobic and they're tied in one fucking space. And to me, this one is expanded. I also love how this one is truly in the traditional zombie movie. They're running outside in the dark and the fucking zombies are doing the zombie walk in the woods trying to chase them. To me, that just screams traditional zombie. I thought this had the best kills in the movie, the best gore in the movie. And yeah, there was some really good humor. If I had to sit and watch any one of these movies again, without question, for me, it's Rec 3.
27% audience score for Rec 3.
Something? When the uncle falls off the balcony onto the table, I'm going, here we go. Let's rock.
Yeah, I mean,
It's gonna get weird now.
yeah, it's got some really, really fun stuff in it.
It's not a bad
it's-
movie.
it's-
And the
Yeah.
other thing to
Fun
me
movie.
that
It's
I really like, of course, it's the odd man out because it's so different. It's
Yeah.
also to me the only one of the four that's a complete story. You know,
Yeah.
it has nothing to do with the first stuff, and when it ends, our story's done. That's it.
But it has nothing to do with it has nothing to do with the series, but it does. It ties
Exactly.
everything. It's really a stroke of fucking genius.
I agree.
It's
You know, to me,
so much fun.
if you
Ties
can
the
only
whole
watch
fucking
one
story
Rec
together.
movie, this is the one.
Oh
my
God, yeah.
You know, to me, one ends on a cliffhanger, two ends on a cliffhanger, and four is just shitty. And by the end, I'm like, oh, I don't even give a fuck.
You know what? I wonder if I would like it a lot more if I watched these as they came out with years in between.
No,
Instead of bam,
that
bam,
And
bam.
that's
has lots of-
could absolutely
Hey,
could be true, Jamie.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I saw these films like whenever they came out of video or theaters, and then up through number 4, which was a direct-to-video thing. And I saw them in sequence, but it wasn't until like we had proposed or Peter had mentioned about doing an REC show. And we sat there and I watched them like 2 months ago. And then graciously, I was going away. I was so enthusiastic about the REC show. I said, Peter, can you change the REC show to a different date? Because I was enjoying this. And I turned around and I watched it second time. And then I watched them a third time before the show to refresh my memory. And it's like, huh, what a fucking stroke of genius these films are in the whole picture, not film by film. Everything has flaws, but it's just great how it all works out. And number 3, Genesis, it's just like it captures every conceivable thing you could find stereotypical, but in horror films, comedy, horror, gore,
Lots of gore.
a hot chick with a chainsaw. Fuck it, it's all there. I'm sorry, it's all there, and it's just, but it's
not your number
fun.
one.
It's not your number one.
But it sounds like it should be, Dan.
But it's
sounds
not
like
my
it
number
should be.
one. It's so frustrating because it should be my number one, but I'm only going to give number one because what is it?
Arguing with
It's
himself.
like an artist, like giving somebody an award from a fucking art museum. You know, it's like it's really making a statement. No, you're not. But yeah, I know it's.
So talk about your number one, Dan.
I think
I
he
think
did.
he did.
See,
First
he
one.
did.
There you go.
He did.
All right, cool.
He did.
So we got a number one for number one.
REC. There we go. There you go. Yeah, the first one. And why do I give REC number one? Only on not creative, maddening effort, just on the whole basic concept of it. It's a great story.
Yeah.
It sits there. It starts. She's there. And I'll be honest with you. We've seen shock moments in our films, whether you're watching a horror film or a mystery film. These are what they call them when somebody jumps out from behind the curtain. Shock horror. These moments in films. When that fireman falls from upstairs and hits the lobby, that just rocked my world. That film. I did not expect that. You know, we're sitting there watching this film. She's there with the film crew. Okay, it's going to get weird. And all of a sudden, at one point, this fireman falls down like 5 stories into the lobby on the tile. And you're going like, holy shit. Then you're off to the races.
Yeah.
And that's why, and that plus the whole concept of the whole POV, taking it from Blair Witch Project, which was kind of a very antiquated or very, handheld thing. They kind of refined it a little bit with an actual film crew. So it wasn't exactly shaky cam, but it was steady cam. So you had that POV with the steady cam, and that was like, wow, that was innovative. And so that's why I give them number one. Now, to regress, yes, number 3 is a fucking hoot. But I have to give number 1 its accolades for what it pulled off at that time. And I'll give it that. So that's there you go.
Cool. Greg?
All right, my number 1 is Rec 3 Genesis, and as the real Dan just said, I have this as my favorite because I like the characters, and that the found footage is logically ditched in this. That it's that it's like as Dan had said, they swat the camera down. It's like shut that thing off. Koldo and Clara, the bride and groom, both really likable, and I enjoy the journey of them trying to reunite. And it is kind of like it's a love story, where it's like she's calling to him over the loudspeaker, Koldo, and he's, she says that she's pregnant, and he's going to do whatever he can to reunite with her. Atun, who's the fat guy, not going into the vent because he says
That
I
was
can't
great.
fit in the vent, is hilarious. And it's refreshing to see that. The two characters that go off to fuck and then have no idea what's going on, that's awesome. It's like all of a sudden it's like, it's like the apocalypse is happening and they're, he basically like looks up with her panties like on his head and is like, oh, what's going on? I mean, it's great. The one royalties, the one character who's like going around to make sure that the music royalties or something. And Sponge John is great, and then they even say to him, "Why don't you take your costume off?" He's like, "Well, I'm naked underneath here." And then later on, later on you see him with the ridiculous costume on, and like he's like getting eaten and everything. You can't help but laugh. The chainsawing with Clara, the bride, where she's like, "This is my day," and it's I mean, for people out there like myself who are married, minus the killing and everything, a lot of these things like really do go on at your weddings, where there's a part where one of the bridesmaids or one of the female guests comes up to Clara and says, "Well, I didn't think you'd invite me," and while everything's going on, she's, "Well, I didn't think you'd invite me," and so, "Well, I was just being polite and everything." I mean, I just thought that some of those things were just really great. I really like the ending where he's got to cut his bride's arm off and everything, and then at the end it is sad, the ending, and it is a finite ending, as Chris had said. There's no cliffhanger on this, but you see it's like, and it's a endless love, type story, just with a lot of blood, a lot of killings, some chainsaws, and some demons thrown in a suit of armor. A lot of fun, and I would recommend this movie to, again, as Chris had said, if you didn't have access maybe to watch the other ones, you could really just watch part 3 and just have a great time with it, and take it as it is. If you have seen the other 2, you see parts in it that ties it in, where it's like, oh yeah, that guy was a vet, or what, there's like a news footage going on in the background at one point where it says like building quarantined or something, SWAT team is surrounded a building. So it gives you the little clues for people who have seen part 1 and 2. But if you didn't, that's okay. You can just watch this one. So yeah, that was my favorite, Rec 3.
Yeah,
I did like the moment the bride and the groom finally met up and she's down below, and I was on the edge of my seat there. Is she going to make it up there and stuff like that? I like that part.
And to echo Chris's comments, it's a standalone film.
Absolutely.
It has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it's entertaining as hell. And that's the great thing. If you don't watch any of the REC films, if you watch this film,
you're totally fine.
Yeah.
And even
you're
if you
totally
do,
fine, because you're
it has the little clues.
absolutely correct. As you do have an
and
end.
even if you do, it has the little clues that ties it into the first.
And that's the weird part about it. It's a standalone film, yet it holds the whole REC universe together. It's kind of a weird, whatever physics thing, but it holds the whole universe of the REC films together because it's a very integral part in 1, 2, going up to number 4. But other than that, it's a standalone film, and he's absolutely correct. It's entertainment from beginning to end, and you walk away feeling satisfied.
Yep.
I don't think it holds it together. I think if it didn't exist, you wouldn't even know it was there.
My number 1.
Moving on to Pete.
My number 1. Why not? Meanwhile,
The terror unfolds in real time is very true. Number 1, I put as my number 1. So even though I am not a fan at all of shaky camera found footage stuff overall, I think the reason why I made this one my number 1, I think as far as like impact and feeling of claustrophobia and this intense feeling of dread and terror throughout much of this film, I think it works the best. I think the infected in this film are absolutely ferocious. You know, it reminded me of kind of the infected in 28 Days Later.
100%. Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Very similar.
Which I think they were going for that kind of vibe. The female lead is great in this. I kind of like the way they added like a whole demonic entity into the zombie infection storyline. I thought it was kind of different. Didn't expect that at all. And I after I watched all 4 of these, like I said before, I had a really hard time figuring out which one I liked the best. And I definitely think 3 is the most fun. I definitely think and I think Chris mentioned this before, the scariest and the one for me that has the most tension in it is the first film. But I like all these films. So I really think, like, if you're watching, you know, we've given you all sorts of directions where to start. You could start from the beginning and watch them all the way straight through. You could watch 3 and then watch the other 3, right? Because that probably is the best way to do it, to be honest with you. It's totally up to you. I think this is a winner of the series, and I'm glad we did this because I really enjoyed this quite a bit. So,
Does Quarantine have a sequel?
There's a
Is there a
Quarantine
Quarantine
2, but it has
Yeah, I was
nothing
gonna
to
say,
do with
Craig's-
the first one.
I had no idea
Totally.
until Craig mentioned it.
yeah.
Okay.
It went totally off the rails from Quarantine
But
2.
it's
Now,
better.
just-
But it's better than Quarantine 1. It takes place all in an airplane.
What may I add something? The thing is that in the U.S. market, okay, unless you have a Region 2 player, okay, number one, in particular, Apocalypse number 4 never was released in the U.S. as a single standalone disc in the Region A or number 1 U.S. format.
You can only get it with this box.
The only way to get
Yeah.
this film is to buy, as Peter is just holding up, the box set from Screen Factory, in which all of them are available in that for, you know, in the Region 1 format. And you can get these sometimes online for as little as $35 for the whole
That
set.
one's 50. That one right there is 50. And I thought I read everything is subtitled and not dubbed in that one, but I guess you're saying a couple
But-
are.
Yeah, because the only one I was able to get, when I said that the Apocalypse number 4 came out in the U.S. market, it came out on streaming or cable service, I can't remember, but also it was available only as a Region 2 or European disc from Europe. You could not get it as a single standalone. I might be wrong with this, but I'm pretty sure. But if you want to buy the whole 4 series, you ever had it before, you can get it for $40 or less on sales.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to get now. I think when I bought it, because I believe the Screen Factory stopped producing these. So if you go onto their website, it'll tell you, you know, no longer sold out.
Yeah, with eBay, they're not going for hard money on Amazon or they're still offering them for under $40.
Yeah.
But if not, that's the only way to get number 4 Apocalypse.
Good
Or you
stuff.
can watch it on Tubi with dumb
For nothing.
commercials.
Yes, if you want to sit there at 3 minutes of, like, I don't know, erectile dysfunction ads, whatever the fuck you want to do.
Yep. So there you have it, everybody. Ranking the Rec films. If you've seen them, rank them in the order that you like them. If you haven't watched any of them, go out and check them out. Come back, go down in the comments and let us know what you think. And stay tuned. We've got another fairly shortish franchise coming up in 2 weeks. We will be ranking the Final Destination films. So that's coming up in 2 weeks. So get set for that. And in the meantime, visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together. All the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as a post. And please do hit that like button before you leave. Very, very important as well. So thanks for watching, everybody. This episode of The Monsters Den for Jamie Laszlo, Dan Brown, Chris Allo, and Craig Kaminski. I am Pete Pardo. Good night, everybody. See you in 2 weeks here on The Monsters Den.